long before the floodwaters rose, before Noah built the ark, before the world was drowned in judgment. A deeper rebellion had already begun. Not among men, but among the heavens. A group of divine beings, once called the sons of God, abandoned their heavenly positions and crossed a forbidden boundary. They descended to earth, took human wives, and gave rise to something unnatural, something the Bible calls the Nephilim. This ancient rebellion was so devastating, so corrupting, that God responded not only by judging mankind, but by cleansing the entire earth. And it didn't end there, because the Bible doesn't just tell us what happened, it warns us of what will happen again. Jesus himself said that the days before his return would look like the days of Noah, days filled with violence, deception, and spiritual invasion. In this powerful study, we'll explore the full story of the fall of the sons of God, who they were, what they did, why God judged them, and what this means for us today. This is not mythology. This is not speculation. This is scripture, revealing a cosmic war that continues to this day. Prepare yourself. The ancient conflict is rising again. Let's begin by unraveling one of the most mysterious phrases in the early chapters of Genesis, the sons of God. Who were they? Were they simply righteous men, descendants of Seth? Or does the Bible suggest something far more ancient, far more supernatural? Genesis chapter 6 verses 1 to 2. When man began to multiply on the face of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Here we see a very unusual scenario. These sons of God see human women and take them as wives. But who exactly are these beings? The original Hebrew term used here is B'nai Ha-Elohim, literally sons of God. This is not a casual title. It appears in only a few very specific and powerful places in the Old Testament. And when it does, it always refers to divine or heavenly beings, not humans. Job, chapter 1, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Job, chapter 38, verse 7. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. These verse, God is describing the moment of the foundation of the earth. Humans did not yet exist, yet the sons of God were already rejoicing. That clearly shows they are not human descendants, but celestial beings, likely angels or divine council members created by God before the creation of mankind. This interpretation, that the sons of God are divine beings, isn't just modern speculation. It was the standard view of Second Temple Judaism, the belief system of Jesus' own day. In fact, early Jewish texts like the Book of Enoch go into great detail about this. The Book of Enoch, an influential Jewish text written between the 3rd and 1st centuries BC and quoted in the New Testament, see Jude, describes a group of angels known as the Watchers. These Watchers descended from heaven, saw the beauty of human women, and chose to take them as wives. Their union led to the birth of the Nephilim, giants and warriors of old, beings who were both unnatural and dangerous. This act of rebellion by the sons of God is portrayed as the tipping point for divine judgment. Jude, chapter 1, verse 6. And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse 4 echoes this. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell Tartarus, and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. This is crucial. These angels, sons of God, left their assigned places, abandoned the heavenly realm, and committed an act so grave that God locked them away in darkness. But not everyone agrees on this interpretation. Some later scholars, especially during the early medieval period, proposed a different view, that the sons of God were descendants of Seth, the righteous son of Adam, and the daughters of men were from the line of Cain. According to this Sethite theory, the sin was not divine rebellion, but intermarriage between the godly and the ungodly. While this explanation arose as a way to move away from supernatural elements, it does not align well with the way the Bible consistently uses the phrase, sons of God. In fact, Every time we see sons of God in the Old Testament, it refers to divine beings. It occurs in heavenly settings. It distinguishes them from humans. Psalm chapter 82 verses 6 to 7. God speaks to the divine assembly. I said, "You are gods, sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die and fall like any prince." This is not poetic exaggeration. This is God, addressing members of his heavenly court who have rebelled, again hinting at the fall of celestial beings who were once called sons of God. So what can we conclude? The Bible consistently uses sons of God to refer to divine beings, not humans. These beings were present before creation. They appear in divine assemblies in the presence of God, and at least some of them fell from their place of authority. The Genesis 6 account, then, is not a fable. It is a record of a cosmic rebellion that occurred early in human history. Before humanity reached its peak population, before the flood swept over the earth, before judgment was poured out, the sons of God fell. And the consequences of that fall would echo not only in the days of Noah, but all the way to the end of the age. Now that we've identified who the sons of God are, divine beings who left their heavenly post, the question becomes even more urgent. When exactly did their fall take place? Was it an isolated act, or part of a greater rebellion that shaped the course of history? To answer that, we return to Genesis 6. Genesis chapter 6 verses 3 to 4. Then the Lord said, "My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown." These two verses are loaded with ancient mystery. First, we see God declaring that man's days will be limited, 120 years. This is not just about lifespan, it's a countdown. A divine deadline is set. Judgment is coming. Second, the Nephilim appear on the scene. This term is derived from the Hebrew root NPL, meaning to fall. They are literally the fallen ones. Giants, yes, but also hybrid beings. The unnatural offspring of the sons of God and human women. Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. Then drives the point home. The Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The sons of God had already descended and committed their rebellion. The Nephilim were already walking the earth, and human civilization had spiraled into total corruption. So, did the fall of these divine beings cause the flood? Let's look closer. Genesis chapter 6, verses 11 to 13. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, "I have determined to make an end of all flesh." This wasn't just about moral sin, it was about widespread corruption of all flesh. The Hebrew word here for corrupted, shakath, suggests ruin, decay, and destruction, both moral and physical. All flesh being corrupted suggests something abnormal was happening to the created order. And who brought this corruption? The Watchers, the fallen sons of God. To understand this further, we turn to an ancient Jewish text that was well known in Jesus' time and is quoted directly in Jude, the book of Enoch. 1 Enoch, chapter 6, verse 7, a group of 200 angels, called the Watchers, saw the daughters of men and lusted after them. They descended upon Mount Hermon, swore an oath to commit the act together, and took wives. These unions produced giants, Nephilim, who consumed everything in sight and then turned on mankind. The Watchers also taught humanity forbidden knowledge, sorcery, astrology, the cutting of roots and herbs, the crafting of weapons, and the manipulation of creation. This ancient text expands what Genesis hints at. The fall of the sons of God was not just a moment of lustful rebellion, it was an invasion. They crossed a boundary that God had set, mixing heaven and earth, spirit and flesh. The result was a genetic, spiritual, and moral contamination of the world. Jude, chapter 1, verses 6 to 7 backs this up. And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left, Their proper dwelling he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness, just as Sodom and Gomorrah indulged in sexual immorality and pursued unnatural desire. Jude compares their sin not to simple pride, but to perversion and crossing of divine limits. So when did the fall occur? The answer becomes clear. The fall of the sons of God preceded the flood. It was one of the main triggers for the flood. It occurred during the early generations after Adam, when population growth allowed for their actions to spread quickly and dramatically. Genesis chapter 6 verse 1 hints at the timing when man began to multiply on the face of the land. As humans spread, the sons of God saw an opportunity, and they seized it. And once again, we must realize this was not just a human story, it was a cosmic rebellion. The flood was not just judgment for mankind's sin, it was divine intervention to purge the earth of a deeper contamination. God had to reset the world, not just to punish, but to preserve the future of redemption. After the fall of the sons of God, after the Nephilim walked the earth, after violence and corruption spread like wildfire through every city, family, and creature, God issued a decree that would change the course of history forever. Genesis chapter 6 verse 17. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh in which is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. This was no ordinary storm. This was a cosmic reset, a divine act of cleansing the earth from an infection that had contaminated all of creation. This judgment wasn't just about punishing wicked humans, it was about restoring the order of creation. Genesis chapter 6 verses 12 to 13. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. All flesh had corrupted its way, a phrase that suggests not just moral sin, but a profound violation of divine boundaries, even in nature itself. Scholars suggest that the phrase all flesh may include both human and animal life that had been genetically or spiritually altered, possibly by the influence of the fallen angels and their offspring. While the flood drowned the corrupted world, it also served another purpose, to judge the rebellious sons of God. 2 Peter chapter 2 verses 4 to 5. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. If he did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment. Here, Peter ties two events together: the fall of the angels, sons of God, the destruction of the ancient world, the flood. Both are portrayed as part of the same divine response. And here's where it gets really fascinating. In the original Greek, the word translated as hell is Tartarus, not the usual word for hell, Gehenna, or the grave Hades. Tartarus is a concept borrowed from ancient Greek cosmology. It refers to the lowest place in the underworld, a prison deeper than Hades, a place reserved for the most dangerous and rebellious beings. By using this term, Peter is making a bold theological statement. These angels were not merely sent away, they were cast into the deepest abyss, a place of containment and judgment beyond the reach of the living. Jude chapter 1 verse 6 confirms this. And the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the judgment of the great day. Unlike Satan, who still appears in Scripture as an accuser, see Job chapter 1 or Revelation chapter 12, these fallen angels are no longer roaming freely, they are imprisoned. This is crucial. It means the threat they posed was so extreme, so destructive to God's created order, that God didn't wait until the final judgment. He locked them away immediately. These divine rebels are in chains, awaiting a second and final judgment, one that Revelation describes as eternal fire. Matthew chapter 25 verse 41. Then he will say to those on his left, Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. This judgment was decisive, immediate, and absolute. The world had reached a point where mercy could no longer delay justice, and God, in his sovereignty, wiped the slate clean. Yet even in judgment, there is hope. Genesis chapter 6 verses 8 to 9. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. The phrase blameless in his generation could mean more than just moral uprightness. Some scholars argue it may also imply genetic purity, that Noah's lineage had not been tainted by the corruption of the fallen angels. God chose Noah and his family to preserve the human race, untainted, faithful, and obedient. He was commanded to build an ark, not just a boat of survival, but a vessel of preservation, a new beginning for humanity, a reboot for creation. Here's the big question. Was the fall of the sons of God and the judgment of the flood a one-time event? Or is it a pattern, a divine warning that points us towards something still to come? Matthew chapter 24 verse 37. Jesus speaking, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. Let that settle in your spirit. Jesus didn't choose those words by accident. He wasn't just comparing timelines or floodwaters. He was giving us a prophetic key. Before his return, before the final judgment, the world will once again resemble the days of Noah. So what characterized Noah's day? Unrestrained wickedness, widespread violence, moral collapse, a corrupted creation, spiritual rebellion between heaven and earth, and yes, possibly supernatural interference. Again, many biblical scholars and theologians now believe Jesus was pointing to more than just human sin. He was pointing to spiritual chaos, to a world where the boundary between the spiritual and the physical was being recklessly violated. Again, could there be another fall? Revelation chapter 12 verses 7 to 9. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Here we see another angelic fall, but this time it's not pre-flood. This is in the last days, during the final showdown between the forces of heaven and hell. Could this be the second wave of rebellion? Are more sons of God, more fallen beings, going to descend again before the end? Could the restrained powers of old, those that were bound in darkness since Noah's time, be released once more? Revelation chapter 9 verses 1 to 3. And the fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star fallen from heaven to earth, and he was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. Then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power like the power of scorpions. This is no ordinary army. These are otherworldly entities, released from a place long sealed, what many believe is Tartarus, the prison of the fallen angels. There's another disturbing possibility. Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 said, "The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, and also afterward." These four words have stirred debate for centuries. Did Nephilim-like beings return after the flood? Numbers chapter 13 verse 33. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Enoch, who come from the Nephilim. And we seemed to ourselves like grasshoppers, and so we seemed to them. The spies in Canaan reported seeing giants, descendants of the Nephilim. Some interpret this as figurative language due to fear, but others believe it may be literal, suggesting a second incursion, a re-emergence of these hybrid beings after the flood. Could the same thing happen again at the end of the age? Are we already witnessing the groundwork for supernatural deception, genetic manipulation, and even transhumanist agendas that mirror the forbidden mixing seen in Noah's day? Daniel chapter 2 verse 43. Prophecy of the last kingdom, as you saw the iron mixed with soft clay, so they will mix with one another in marriage, but they will not hold together, just as iron does not mix with clay. Some scholars argue this strange passage may hint at a return of unnatural unions, just like Genesis 6. The New Testament repeatedly warns us that deception will increase before Jesus returns. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verses 9 to 10. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing. Matthew chapter 24 verse 24. For false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. This isn't just human deception, this is demonic strategy, supernatural illusion, cosmic-level warfare. What if what happened in Genesis 6 isn't just history, but prophecy? What if the fall of the sons of God in Noah's day was a preview of a greater spiritual invasion still to come? Whether in Genesis or in Revelation, one truth remains constant: God always deals with rebellion. He does not ignore corruption. He does not turn a blind eye to injustice. He is both a loving creator and a righteous judge. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 17. God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked, for there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. And Scripture shows that judgment is not only past, it's also future. Just as God judged the rebellious sons of God before the flood, He will bring final judgment at the end of the age. Let's go to the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 20 verses 1 to 3. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. This is parallel language to what we saw in Jude and 2 Peter. Just like the rebellious angels who left their position of authority and were chained in gloomy darkness, Satan himself is bound, locked away in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. The bottomless pit, Greek abusos, is likely the same realm referred to in Peter's letter as Tartarus, the deepest prison of judgment. God is not letting these spiritual rebels roam free forever. There is a divine containment plan, and it will reach its climax. Revelation chapter 20 verse 10. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. The lake of fire is not symbolic, it is eternal punishment. And Satan is not its ruler, he is its prisoner. This is the final justice for the one who led the rebellion in Eden, who influenced the fall of the sons of God in Genesis, who deceived the nations throughout human history, and who will lead the last rebellion at the end of the millennium. Matthew chapter 25 verse 41. Then he will say, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Notice that the fire was never meant for humans. It was originally prepared for the fallen ones. But judgment is not the end. Judgment is the doorway to restoration. Jude chapter 1 verses 14 to 15, quoting 1 Enoch, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones, to execute judgment on all, and to convict all the ungodly of their deeds." This is a full circle moment. The very beings who fell, who corrupted mankind, who tainted God's creation, will face the righteous King, returning not as a humble servant, but as the commander of heaven's army. The sin that began in Genesis chapter 6 is answered in Jude and Revelation chapter 20. The corruption is confronted, the divine rebellion is crushed, the watchers, the Nephilim, Satan, the beast, the false prophet, all judged. And then something glorious happens. Revelation chapter 21 verses 1 to 4. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will wipe away every tear, and death shall be no more." This is the restoration that every heart longs for. No more fallen angels, no more deception, no more pain, no more death, and no more separation between God and his people. Where once the sons of God rebelled and defiled the earth, now the Son of God reigns and restores it. Where once humanity was scattered and broken, now we are gathered and healed. Where once darkness ruled, now the Lamb is the light. Revelation chapter 22 verses 3 to 4. No longer will there be anything accursed, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face. Now that we've traced this ancient cosmic drama from the fall of the sons of God to the judgment in Noah's day and the final reckoning in Revelation, you may be asking, what does this mean for me right now? Here's the answer. The Bible is not just the story of humanity. It's the story of the universe. A cosmic war is unfolding, a spiritual conflict between the forces of light and darkness, obedience and rebellion, truth and deception, and you are not an observer. You are part of it. Every day we live in the in-between, between Eden and the New Jerusalem, between Genesis and Revelation, between the fall of the Watchers and the return of Christ. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness. This war is invisible, but it is real. And Jesus came to bring victory, not just over sin in your heart, but over the entire cosmic rebellion. Colossians chapter 2 verse 15. He disarmed the rulers and authorities and put them to open shame by triumphing over them in him. At the cross, Jesus didn't just defeat sin, he disarmed the spiritual rulers, the fallen ones who once had dominion over mankind. His victory was complete, but the battle still rages. Until the day he returns, we are living in days that eerily resemble Noah's time. Violence is increasing, truth is twisted, deception is everywhere. Many have turned their hearts away from God, and spiritual confusion is rising, even in the church. 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 10 to 13. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. But according to his promise, we are waiting for new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells. Just as judgment came in Noah's day, it will come again. But there is good news. You don't have to be caught off guard. You don't have to live in fear. You can walk with God like Noah did. Genesis chapter 6 verse 9. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. And you can too. The invitation is clear. Walk in faith, stay alert, guard your heart from deception. Cling to the truth of God's word. Live in such a way that you're not ashamed when the sky splits and the Son of Man returns. Luke chapter 21 verse 36. But stay awake at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things, and to stand before the Son of Man. The call is urgent. Don't wait, don't delay. Like Noah, prepare your ark. That ark today is your faith, your obedience, your intimacy with God. If this message opened your eyes, if it challenged your understanding, if it stirred something inside your spirit, then do something about it. Like, comment, and subscribe for more deep Bible studies like this. Comment below, I choose to walk like Noah, in faith and obedience. Share this video with a friend who needs to understand the unseen battle behind the Bible. Let them see that Genesis and Revelation are not just ancient stories, they are your story. And the next chapter is still being written.